The campaigns are wrapping up. It's time to vote. This is the CitizenLink Report. I'm Stuart Shepard along with CitizenLink's Executive Director, Tom Minnery. Hi, Tom.
Hello, Stuart.
Before we get to the topic today, Tom and I just want to take a moment and acknowledge and talk about those of you who are in the path of Hurricane Sandy. We've been praying for you and thinking about you.
Well, you're right. We are wrapped up in everything dealing with the election, and we realize that a whole lot of people, for those people, the election is the last thing on their mind. They're worried about homes, families, loved ones, and indeed, it is a disaster that will be a long time in recovering from.
All right, let's talk about the campaign now. This has been a campaign of excess. Each side is raised in the ballpark of $1 billion and spent it on campaign ads. We cannot get away from those ads. They started in the swing states way back in the spring. The negative ads have been on TV, they're on radio. You go watch a video on YouTube. There's a pre-roll ad that's a negative ad about one candidate or another. What are your final thoughts as we get down to voting?
I think it's going to surprise people, the turnout among conservatives. I cannot understand why the pollsters build their models based on the turnout in the last presidential election. All we've seen since then, the rise of the Tea Party, the 2010 elections in which conservatives dominated, it seems to me that should indicate that more conservatives will be turning out this year than they did in 2008. And some people who know this world are saying the same thing. There will be more conservative people turning out. And the polling models have not been built properly. So I don't know. I'm not a polling expert.
Yeah.
But I'm just aware of the excitement at the grassroots that we'll be talking about in just a moment. But I think it's going to be very strong for the conservative side of the ticket. And I'm not only talking about the presidential election. We've been working on elections all the way down to the state legislature level. At the presidential level, when it's tied in a particular state, those who have not yet decided tend to break for the other guy, not the incumbent.
Yeah.
If the incumbent has not made the sale by the last week or so, he's lost the sale, so to speak, and that is evident on election night. So I'm more encouraged than a lot of people are when they read how close things are.
And what you're referring to, the pollsters call it the enthusiasm gap. The difference in not just are you likely to vote, but will you absolutely make sure you get to vote on Election Day? And there seems to be a much higher enthusiasm on the conservative side than the liberal side.
Well, and there's one more,
yeah.
And that's not only it is also party enrollment. We've seen, for example, in Ohio, the Republican Party now, I believe, leads narrowly in party enrollment over the Democratic Party enrollment. 4 years ago, it was the opposite. Democrats were enrolled at a higher percentage of voters in Ohio than were Republicans by about 8 or 9%. So that shift also, it seems to me, will be seen on election night.
Now, something we're going to be hearing a lot about over the next few days is the Electoral College. We were talking to my little boy, he's 7 years old. We said, today we're going to learn about the Electoral College. He thought for a moment, he said, I think I'd like to go there. We said, no. This is not an academic institution. But, well, technically you could go there, we figured out, because it is a collection of delegates, if you will. Explain for the rest of us what the Electoral College is and how it works in the simplest way.
It goes back to the founding of our country, the desire of the founding fathers to keep election process and lawmaking process out of the hands of people completely. They were afraid of rabble-rousing, afraid of mob rule, afraid of anarchy. That's why we have a representative republic. We do not ourselves vote on our laws, except in certain circumstances.
Yeah.
Our representatives do that. Now, electors cast the votes for president. Now, so we're voting for people, not the president? Well, yes, technically, but the electors on each side have been appointed by their respective political parties. And so, almost without exception down through history, the electors vote for the candidates represented by the majority vote of the people in that state. And there are procedures in place to be sure that happens. The electors will meet in each state. They gather in December, and they vote. 270 electors are required for a candidate to become president. In all, there are 538 electors, so half of that's 269 plus 1 gives you a 270 majority.
Right.
And then Congress actually counts those electoral votes in January and announces who is going to be the president. Now, there was a poignant moment in Electoral College history back in January of 2001. The gentleman who announces who won the electoral vote is the president of the Senate, who actually is the vice president of the United States. The vice president of the United States at that point was Al Gore.
That's right.
Al Gore had just done something very rare, won the popular vote by 0.3%, but lost the electoral vote. So he had to stand up and say, George W. Bush, 271 electoral votes, Albert Gore, 266. I think those were the numbers. And so he announced his own defeat. And nonetheless, it is a system that has lasted, a system that has trust built in it. So we expect no problems from the Electoral College doing their duty this year.
We should point out that what you just described in the Bush-Gore election, that's precisely how it's intended to work. They're not trying to win the popular vote, they're trying to win the Electoral College votes. And that's the founders, part of what they built into the system was a sense that they didn't want the most populous areas to run roughshod over the states with less population. They wanted to give them just the smaller states a slight edge. So Wyoming, for example, because it has 2 senators and 1 representative in Congress, has 3 delegates that vote in the Electoral College. That gives a small state like that a slight edge, just the tiniest edge. So in that case, President Bush collected most of the red states in the middle of the country, many of those less population. That gave them a slight edge over California, New York.
That's a good point. That's a good point. We are a federal government, not a national government. Our government is a federation of states, which are united, usually, and therefore the election should reflect participation by large states, small states all around the country.
All right. Before I let you go, I want to give you a chance to talk about some of the efforts that CitizenLink and Focus on the Family has been endeavoring during this election season. What have we been up to?
Happy to do it real quick. Focus on the Family has been engaged in the largest ever combined and coordinated voter registration project in the modern conservative movement. We have joined together with 5 national pro-life, pro-family organizations, have scrubbed our lists to find people on our own mailing lists who are not registered or who have unregistered voting age people in their households. And our goal was to find 5 million. We did that, and we mailed 2 voter registration forms to each of those 5 million households, so 10 million voter registration forms out there. And we have encouraged them by follow-up mailings and phone calls to register to vote. After election, when the actual data of voter participation and voter registration is released state by state, we'll find out how well we did in getting these 5 million unregistered people registered and how many of those registered people turned up to vote. Now, CitizenLink is our activist organization. We can get closer to the elections through CitizenLink, and we have been more active than ever before in the grassroots. We have dozens of call centers around the country, hundreds and hundreds of volunteers making calls to people who lean our way if they would only get to the polls. Right. And so our encouragement is to tell them the importance of doing that and in a gentle sense where the candidates stand on the issues. We're also doing that with mailers, a whole lot of postcard type mailers going out across the country, specific states, where people need to know what's going on. This is a one for the presidential election, and we have mailed several million of these out. We have also mailed out mailers for congressional elections, state legislative elections, all targeted to inform voters where the candidates stand on issues important to Focus on the Family and CitizenLink: life, marriage, religious liberty. And we concentrated on the presidential election because there is such a strong difference on those biblical principles between the 2 candidates. So we have been very active. We've been blessed with enough funding to get the job done. A lot of people who are watching have participated in sending us donations so we can do this. After the election, we'll have a lot more to say about it.
We'll talk about it in detail. We just want you to know we want pro-family voters engaged in this election. We want them to be registered and to participate. I want to give you a chance as we wrap this up, just to encourage people specifically and from your heart to engage in this election season.
I think that a lot of people around the world would love to have the privilege that you have to be a citizen of this country. With that comes the right to vote. We believe it is a sacred obligation because Paul in Romans 13 says we respect the governing authorities. That's about the summary of the first 5 verses of Romans 13. The threshold way in which we respect the governing authorities is to participate in the government that has been created for this country. They expect the people to participate in this country, which is of the people, by the people, and for the people. We are the people, and it's time for us to let our voices be heard.
Thank you, Tom, and thanks to all of you who watch each week here. We want to encourage you to participate in the election this season. Get out there, make an appointment on your calendar to get out and vote. We do appreciate hearing from you. You may always write to us at mail@citizenlink.com, and do pray for our nation as we make the critical decisions over who at every level of government will represent us and who will lead us. Remember to stand tall, be heard, and vote.